Rob Millington and Matt Cossens. Good afternoon. How are you, chaps?
Hey, Pete. Hey, Rob.
Good afternoon. Hey, Matt. How you going?
Rob, meet Matt. Matt, meet Rob.
Nice to meet you.
G'day.
You sort of know each other, but you've never met in person. Is that correct?
We know each other. We've shared staff. That sounds a bit wrong, but we've shared staff. But we've never actually met in the flesh. We've spoken over the phone a few times, but never actually met in the flesh.
Mate, I can't believe you're saying that. I'm very disappointed. What about that amazing night at the Seek Awards? You're the table next to me, but let's not talk about that. Let's just move on. Yeah, that's maybe when we shared that stuff.
Was it debaucherous? Was it late? Did anybody make a fool of themselves?
Oh no, not at all, mate.
Kate took the win.
Kate took the win. Yeah, she did. Absolutely.
Well deserved.
Lads, thank you so much for coming on and doing this. You've actually both been on recruitment journeys before, so this is your second inning. So thanks for staying loyal. I'm glad I didn't scare you off the first time around. As you can see, we're doing things a little bit different this time. Instead of just the kind of one-on-one conversation with a recruitment identity, we've got a couple of industry heavyweights on to have a bit of a chat. This is series 3 of Recruitment Journeys. I don't even know what episode we are, 7 or 8. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But every week we, of course, talk about something a little bit different. And this is, I'll be honest, this is different. Well, I hope it is anyway. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out.
I'm a little bit worried about this. Sorry to interrupt there, but you've just called me a heavyweight already. I don't know whether to be insulted or we're going to be talking about extreme sports and things like that.
Yeah.
Matt's looking very trim these days, and I'm definitely the heavyweight.
Too kind. Yeah, probably more a middleweight at the moment.
Mate, being a heavyweight might come into your motivations as to why you do these things, but we'll come on to that. So a couple of years ago, I was attempting to get ready for one of these Oxfam 100k walks, which, by the way, I didn't complete. I bailed out at 42k in the middle of the night with double vision and a broken torch and just whimpered off like an absolute ponce. But I don't know how, but I got into conversation with Rob Millington and said, oh, yeah, I've got to get all the gear. I've got to get like the water thing, whatever it's called. And I remember ringing him from Rebel Sports saying, mate, what kind of shorts should I be wearing? Because I don't want to chafe. Anyway, it transpired that Rob's a bit of an expert or really into his extreme challenges and sports and personal goals. And then I obviously also heard that you do that as well, Matt. Now you're both a little bit unhinged in that regard. You like to put yourself through the mill. So I wanted to explore whether there's any kind of correlation between what you do outside of work and how that relates to your careers and how you approach your careers, your goal setting in life. Is there parallels to be drawn in your goal setting in your recruitment careers? Look, this might fizzle out and be, and I might be completely backing up the wrong tree, but we shall see. So thank you for coming on and having a chat about that kind of stuff, lads. I hope it's interesting. But before we get into it, I'm going to ask you 4 questions, which I hope will give the viewers and the listeners a bit of an insight into who you are as people behind the recruitment executives. Bit of fun, really. 4 icebreakers. Rob, I'm going to start with you. We'll kind of rotate. If you had not gone into recruitment as a career, what career would you like to have had?
The career I would like to have had was probably be in the police force, doing something alongside either working with the diving squad, because I was a diver in the Navy, or sort of working with dogs. I volunteered for the police for 2 years whilst I was in the UK when I came out of the Navy. Thought about it, but I was actually working in recruitment at the time, and the coppers were saying, mate, don't join us, mate. You're earning a lot more money than you will in the police force, and sort of turned me away. But, the police force is still something that I've always wanted to scratch, but yeah, never really had the balls to do from a financial point of view.
Yeah. Mate, that ship has sailed a long time ago.
100%, mate, 100%.
Could you do the voluntary plod where you just go out the weekends and kind of marshal teenagers who are getting drunk on the street corners?
No, I'll give that one a miss now, mate.
Got your own teenagers to look after, right?
Absolutely, mate. Absolutely.
And Matt, what about you, mate? If you hadn't chosen a career in recruitment, or if it hadn't chosen you, what would you
definitely not a copper, I can tell you that. I won't say anything more on that, but I think as a young player, a young fella, I would have loved to have been an NBA basketball player, but the reality is I probably didn't grow tall enough. So not that. Maybe a boxer.
Wow.
I thought I was going to be an accountant, and then realised I had a personality. No offence to any accountants out there, but
you're in IT recruitment, mate. No.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. But yeah, I think I think sports was probably where I was drawn as a young fella. My dad was an accountant. I thought I wanted to do that. You know, recruitment was literally an accident, but wouldn't change it for the world.
You famously started out as a fishmonger, mate. You didn't fancy a career in fishmongering?
Yeah.
No, definitely not enough money in that long term, and too smelly.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Okay, Rob, back to you, mate. Who in the look? You've both been in recruitment for 20 plus years.
Yeah.
You would have met a lot of kind of successful and inspirational people in our industry in that time. Who have you got to know? Oh, actually, no, you don't need to know them. Who do you most admire in the recruitment industry, and why?
This guy's probably going to be a bit controversial for me, but he's also a friend. But I'm going to say Gary Goldsmith. You know, founder of Computer Futures, S3. I met him, you know, before I got into recruitment. He's the reason why I got into recruitment. I was Gary's mate on the board at CF for many years in Manchester. The guy is just phenomenal, entrepreneurial, just inspirational, people, sales, innovation. The guy's insane. He's redefined himself and reinvented himself over and over again. Runs the Pirates now in the UK, which is kind of I don't know. It's a group of like-minded recruitment entrepreneurs that's basically just help people that are starting out and business leaders. And it's, you know, it's done on the WhatsApp. They run seminars, etc. He's unbelievable. Very controversial as well. You'll see him heckling likes of Greg Savage and things like that on LinkedIn, which it's quite funny at times. But no, he's unbelievable, that guy.
Matt, do you know who he is, Gary Goldsmith?
No, absolutely no idea.
Check him out. I mean, I don't know him, but you could definitely say he's you know, he stands true to who he is, right? He doesn't buckle to any politically correct pressure. He is who he is, and he stands proud.
He certainly is.
Matt, who do you most admire? You know,
mine's probably less eloquent than Rob's, and probably a bit more general. I think I find, like, I admire, you know, everything from a rookie who's hustling to do his first deal, you know, to someone getting their first big client win, like, or to someone who's got an attribute that stands out for me. So if I think, like, when I started out, you know, David Carman was probably my biggest inspiration. You know, I met him as a recruitment trainer with no experience, and I was like, this is what good looks like. And obviously he had a strong career in recruitment before going into training. But then if I look over my journey, you know, there's so many brilliant people I've worked with. Half of them Rob's still got. You know, like your Kate Grahams of the world, Marie Barry. You know, I've worked for a bunch of inspirational leaders. Even Peter Mackley at Greythorn, kind of early days. You know, he was quirky, but, you know, his care for his people. Like, I remember him flying down from London just to say hello to me and 3 other rookies. So I think I find, you know, a bunch of people I've admired over the years, but it's probably more about an attribute than it is, you know, that particular person. So it sounds like a little bit of a cop out, but I think there's so many things you can look at in what we do and be like, I admire that part of that person. But there wouldn't be like one person, like Rob kind of mentioned, where I'm like, that's the one for me. It's probably a group of people that have kind of impacted me, or I've seen impact others over a long period of time.
Why wasn't that eloquent, Matt? That was as eloquent as...
Absolutely. I was about to say that myself as well. That was actually amazing. And now I feel terrible for not mentioning numerous people, because, absolutely. But I apologize.
Well, I've dropped in 3 or 4 names, right? I've dropped in 3 or 4 names now. So now I'm in the poo for the other 50 that I didn't mention. But hopefully those couple of people feel special.
Bob, that was a bit like an Oscars acceptance. Rob, you must have made a couple of these over the years. But what's the biggest mistake you've made in your recruitment career that you're happy to admit to?
I looked at this morning, and I actually wrote down a piece of paper, moving into management too soon. And you know, you don't make them. You don't. And I'm looking at some paychecks, but I sometimes moving too quickly. Really, from I would say from one company to another, not giving it a chance, but or judging people too quickly, making decisions on people's lives really too quickly. That's probably, I would say, it's probably some of the mistakes I've made during my sort of recruitment career, without a doubt.
Yeah, okay, mate. That sounds...
Not sort of being pure, yeah, not being you, Pete, or me?
Yeah, sorry, mate. We lost you there for the last 10 seconds. I don't know whether that was your Wi-Fi. I think you were about to do some real deep soul searching and give us this real tear-jerking answer, and then we lost you.
We got nothing.
We got donuts. What did you get? What did you get? I can't. I was moving around. I couldn't see anybody on the other end. But
you were basically saying, look, you know, you've made decisions on people and things too quickly, and which have affected people's lives, and yeah, it was pretty honest response.
Yeah, I think it's. I would say they're probably some of certainly the mistakes I've made, and probably not backing myself actually, and just pushing back on people that are getting you to make those decisions as well. So owning it and having a bit more faith in myself. So yeah.
Okay.
That's
you know what, mate? It's lovely to hear to somebody who sits in a senior role like you, who's been in the game for so long. You know, we're always learning, right? We're always self-reflecting. We're always, trying to be better versions of ourselves. And it sounds like you've looked in the mirror and had a few chats.
Absolutely.
Matt, biggest mistake you've made in recruitment? Please keep it eloquent.
Yeah, probably very similar, right? Like if I look, it's definitely people related. I think for me, it was probably thinking I could change everyone and make everyone amazing. You meet that person who has been an underperformer, or hasn't had you meet them and you're like, oh, they're not there yet, but then probably egotistically going, but they haven't worked with me yet. They haven't been under my guidance, my leadership. I'll grow them differently. And I think there's so many times, particularly the younger leader version of me, where I'm like, I can change everyone, I can make everyone amazing, and just made a bunch of just probably poor calls. And then you realize after a few of them that, you can't, if someone just doesn't have it, they don't have it. I think you can unlock potential, but sometimes you see that their potential's never been unlocked, but you're going to be, egotistically, you're going to be the one that's going to change that. And I think I've done that. I did that time and time again, kind of early in my career. And I'd have a similar lens to Rob on that. It means you're kind of playing with people's lives, or, you don't think about that broader impact as a young leader. But I think when you reflect back, it's like, I probably should have made some different calls.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Well, thank you, chaps. One more question to get to know you. If I know, Rob, you've got a couple of lads who are kind of thinking about their careers and their lives ahead of them. If one of them turned around and said, Dad, I want to go and work in recruitment, what's the number one piece of advice you would give them?
Pick an amazing brand that's going to support you through your career, train and develop you. That's what, I'm going to leave it there. I had lots of little things I wanted to say about this one, but just choose an amazing brand.
Well, make sure the machine behind you
is going to support you.
Push you towards success.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, Matt.
Oh, I'm so torn on this one as to the one piece of. Can I give two?
I know. No, it's a tough one.
No, number one.
Oh. Okay. Effort will get you where you need to be.
Effort.
Yeah. Let's make it all about effort. Outwork everyone.
Okay. So define effort. You mean you walk through the door at 8 o'clock in the morning and you just graft for every minute of the day?
Yeah. So make the difference between you and your colleagues and your competition. Like if the two of you are on a treadmill, you will die on the freaking treadmill, right? They will quit before you. Outwork them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Right. Lovely. Thank you, lads.
That
was insightful. Now I've just realised, amateur hour that this podcast is. I didn't even introduce you.
So all good.
So I'll do it very briefly. Rob Millington, you are the general manager of Experis,
Formerly known as Greythorn.
formerly known as Greythorn. And Matt Cossens, you're the managing director, national managing director of Auric.
Yeah, correct.
Both technology specialists, both technology heavyweight recruitment legends. I think that'll do. Do.
I would have just said, here's a couple of guys who do recruitment.
Yeah,
absolutely. No, there's no need for the heavyweight. Come on. Stop that in there. Playing
heavyweight and light heavyweight. Heavyweight and light heavyweight. You choose which way round.
A couple of blokes have outstayed their welcome in the industry.
True that.
Right, so we're going to talk about extreme goals and challenges. To give the viewers and the listeners some kind of context about what I'm referring to when I talk about these extreme goals, I'd like you both to list a few examples of the types of things that you have voluntarily put yourselves through. Matt, you go first, please, sir.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, obviously Oxfam, but I wouldn't say that's an extreme goal unless and I'm going to steal Rob's thunder, unless you do a Rob and run it. But when you didn't make it, the first thing I thought was soft. But Oxfam is definitely one. Marathon, ultra marathon.
That was really hard, by the way, really hard.
It really isn't. It really isn't. Ultra marathon running. I've jumped in the MMA cage twice. I think for most people that's pretty extreme. Most people wouldn't even want to do the walk once, let alone twice. A bunch of different fitness challenges. I've started a little side business where I coach and lead other recruitment leaders and done some things for the industry. That was pretty challenging. I'd put starting a blog in there as well, weirdly, even though that wasn't a fitness challenge. I think that was more of a mental kind of, do I want to have a voice? There was a lot of things that probably came up in starting the blog that had parallels to some of those kind of more fitness related challenges.
And when you say things like, I've jumped in the MMA cage twice, and you said that very, almost off the cuff, like it was quite an insignificant event. I'm imagining there was months and months of training in preparation for that. You didn't just walk in and say, right, let's have a crack.
No. So I found this thing online. It was called Wimp to Warrior, funnily enough. You can Google it if you're interested. It's I don't know how many seasons it's in, but I did the first one in Melbourne. And they basically took a bunch of people, I'll say with limited martial arts experience. I had quite a bit. And funnily enough, in our series, there was a lot of people who had significant martial arts experience, and we're going to do 6 months of training every day. So it was at 5 o'clock in the morning start, 1.5 to 2 hour sessions every day for 6 months. We're going to do a fight camp 4 months in, which goes for 2 months, and then we're going to put you in a cage against someone of similar skill level. Melbourne Pavilion, where they hold all the large kind of MMA events and boxing events in Melbourne. It was absolutely full on. Like, the level of training was insane. Best shape I've ever been in my life. And unlike the other series where they had, just people off the street, we had a bunch of people who were very, very skilled. So it was quite an intimidating season to do, and a hell of a lot of fun.
Did you win? Did you win those fights?
No, I didn't. So first one, I got choked out in front of my entire family. So I was up against a very good jiu-jitsu guy. My strength is my stand-up, and got choked out in the first round. And it was funny, right? I learned probably more from that around kind of how you deal with resilience, especially someone who likes to win and is competitive and goal driven. I probably learned more through losing around, what does a loss mean to you? And was it actually a loss? Because I think everyone was like, Matt's going to crumple. He's not used to losing. Like, everyone there just assumed I was going to win. My opponent's wife came over and said, please don't kill my husband. I'm like, well, that's not my intent. But I think, for me, I was like, did I lose on the night? Yeah, of course. I got choked out in front of everyone, but I was in the best shape of my life. Did a walk that no one, the 90% of human beings, and maybe 95% of human beings are never going to do. Learned so much about myself through that journey that I wouldn't call it a loss, other than there was a moment in time where, yes, someone else's hand was raised, but from an ongoing kind of life journey. And I think that's what you learn through kind of extreme events. You learn about yourself and who you are as a person.
Well, we're obviously going to come back to that and touch on that. But what I find interesting about that is that I've met you many times over the years, and we speak regularly. You're just not that. You're just not that aggressive, hostile, confrontational person, right?
Yeah.
So presumably you have to change your whole mindset when you walk into the cage.
Yeah.
And most of us couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. I'd be jumping over the cage and
Yeah. I'd like to think most people, when they meet me, think I'm a friendly guy. I might be a little bit different on the sporting field and have a bit of a switch, but
interesting.
Yeah, it's
interesting. Okay, Rob, what are some of the apparently crazy things that you've done over the years?
I've not stepped into a cage. I did kickboxing for a long time in the UK. I was growing up, and again stepped into the boxing ring and had 8 fights. And I do think you lose a lot. You learn a lot from the mistakes you make in there. I lost 1 fight, and I got an absolute kicking. But it was you step out of there and you dust yourself back off again and you go again. And it set me up with discipline, for want of a better word. But it certainly gives you discipline doing a sort of martial art. And then the other things that I went on and sort of really started enjoying my running and sort of pushing myself. You start off at 5K, then 10K, 15K, and then you start then doing marathons and ultra marathons. I've done 4 and 5 days events where you're running a marathon plus a day, and then you got to back it up the next day. So those are the things that I kind of enjoy. When I came to Australia, I then got into triathlon. And bizarrely enough, I was a Navy diver, but I was shocking, like most Brits are, at swimming on top of the water. Yeah. So, I had to teach myself, I didn't teach myself swimming. Johnny Van Weeser that taught me how to swim. And getting out into the ocean and swimming is another crazy thing. It's quite unnerving, but, I ended up doing 2 Ironman, trained for 3, but then New Zealand, one of them got sort of downsized to a half because of the crazy weather. But then multiple triathlon events, and then half Ironman, and then full Ironman. So they're the kind of things I've done. I've done 4 or 5 day events where you're mountain biking and doing it during the day and you're doing it at night. So they're the things that I really enjoy, and it's the kind of people that you do it with as well. Like-minded people. You feel part of a crazy crew when you're on that start line and you want to push yourself. So yeah, they're the kinds of things I've done.
So thank you. So you just used the word. You used this word 3 times. I used the word enjoy 3 times.
Enjoy running.
Yeah, I do enjoy running. Yeah,
same.
It's bizarre actually, because I was, I obviously stepped out of the recruitment industry for 3 years and became a personal trainer, and that's probably when I was at my fittest, similar to what Matt said when he was doing cage fighting. But that was the point when I was unbelievably fit, pretty focused. That's when I did my Ironman events, and I'd always ran prior to coming to Australia. The first big challenge I set myself was to run Comrades in South Africa, which is a 90k road run from Durban to Pietermaritzburg. So there's an up run and a down run. So I was working with a lot of South Africans. They talked about it. There's an incredible history around this race, and it's probably the standout thing that I've done. I absolutely loved it. It's insane. And I did that, absolutely loved it, but then came over here and got into triathlon, which is very, very different. They're a different bunch of people to runners. There's no doubt about it. But then I've sort of reverted back to sort of the running and mountain biking. Now I really enjoy doing sort of trail running. So starting to sort of get myself back into the shape that I was previously. So that, we're going to talk about it later, but yeah, that's a bit. I've got a goal this year to get back to sort of ultramarathon distance, and I'm slowly getting there this year. So,
and I'm playing catch up with Rob on the ultramarathon train. So, no doubt we're going to do some runs together.
Absolutely, mate. Listen, I came into this for saying I'm not leaving this call today until we actually, lock something in this year for you and I to run together without a doubt. Whether it's
very good, very good. Because obviously I'm one of you. I'm an extreme sports addict like you. I did the 100k thing out. And,
you started it. We'll give you that.
Whoa. Absolutely. Well,
we're cut from the same cloth.
That's part of the battle. That's part of the battle.
Yeah, exactly. We're cut from the same cloth. And I can tell you, at 41 Ks, I was not enjoying it. The word enjoyment was not coming into my mind. Anyway, it's not about me. So where do you, in a nutshell, Matt, where does this desire to do these things come from? Why does it exist within you?
That's a really tough question. I think, part of it for me, and it's probably the tie-in between kind of work and personal, and I think we'll get onto that later. But I think part of it is just being the best version of yourself, getting outside your comfort zone. Like it really is where you find out about yourself when you're 60, 70 Ks into a run, your body has well and truly said, I'm done. And you're like, no, I'm not. You really learn about yourself, which it sounds crazy, right? But it's true. Or, you're in a boxing ring and you've been sparring for an hour and a half and you're getting lit up by your opponent. You learn about things. You can't have a bad day if someone's punching you in the face. So I think a lot of it is just that wanting to grow, learn, get feedback, and really push the limits. And I don't know, I've always had that in me. My dad was a marathon runner, semi-elite marathon runner. So I think he's wired a little bit loose. I've probably picked up some of that DNA. But I think, I don't know, I don't want to leave this earth with regrets. So there's part of it of like, how far can I go? So I did my first ultra in Feb. We got to 80 Ks and I was well and truly spent. But then I'm like, well, if I train properly, who says I can't do 100? Or I look at someone like a Rob who's done, next level, or I look at like a Dave Goggins who's ran, 250, 300 kilometers and he's a guy of my size. And I'm like, well, that's the benchmark. So if I'm at 80, I've got a long way to go. And it's one of those things you just find out, like when you think you're done, you can always do more. And I think that's, I know we'll get onto the parallels with recruitment, but it's like when you think you're done, you can always do more.
Yeah.
And I think there's just an ownership piece from a generational responsibility. So I look and go, if I look at my dad, he came from a poor kind of background, got us to a good place. We're by no means wealthy or rich, but he worked his butt off to kind of set us up. It's my responsibility to then take our family to the next level, or that next generation to that next level. And does that mean you need to do extreme sports? No, but I think you've got to push the boundaries to go to that next level. No one's going to level up by staying the same.
Very good, very good. Matt, I think, sorry, Rob, I think Matt just cited you as an inspiration there at some point in that. Did you hear that? He said, look at guys like Rob. Hey?
I'll take it. It's better than the heavyweight comment, so I'll take that, absolutely. But you have to surround yourself by people that actually inspire you, and part of me even getting into sort of Ironman and these kind of sort of endurance events about the people that you meet around you, and there's always 100%. Somebody that is next level. There's as part of the triathlon squad, and within that triathlon squad there was lots of ultra marathon runners. There was adventure racers, which is the next level again, where you're doing multi disciplines, and they push themselves not just for a day, it's 3 or 4 days, and God, will I get to that point at some point? I don't know, but it's just ticking the box that makes you content or challenges you, and shows other people that you can push the boundaries. And I've been in situations like yourself, Matt, where you have to go, I've got to dig myself out of this. Oxfam was a prime example of that. I think 35K in, I don't know what was going on with my body, but my nutrition I thought was great all the way through it. Training was perfect, but 35K, I remember saying to the support crew and my wife, going, something's not right here, and I don't feel I'm getting the nutrition into my body. And next minute I'm throwing up on the side of the road, and a couple of people went past me, and then turn that round. Our support crew are like, right, eat this, do this, back, keep on going. Your mindset is, I'm going to finish this. I don't want to let my team down, for one, but you do it. And I remember passing people towards the end, and they're just going, my God, mate, I knew these guys are going, Rob, I can't believe it. You were throwing up at 35K at the side of the road, and now we finished. Yeah, we finished in 3rd place. We were the 3rd mixed team over the line. And the 2 girls, Sarah and Kiralee, and then Jesus Christ, can't even Scotty Mitchell. God, he'll kill me. That guy's an inspiration. Well, the 2 girls are inspirational as well. But it's just phenomenal to surround yourself with people that continually push you and you can be inspired by, without a doubt.
And that's the difference between me and you, mate. When my support crew turned up at 42K, I just remember the guy turned up in a really nice BMW with cream leather seats. I said, no, I'm getting in that BMW and I'm going home to a bed.
Yeah, but I so agree, Rob, with that part around kind of the people you're surrounded by. Like, I don't know, like for people who don't do anything extreme or haven't done anything extreme, like it can be like, like I might be an outlier or Rob might be an outlier, but the thing you work out is when you go into one of those events, you're no longer an outlier. There's 50 other people there or 100 other people there who are as wide, as crazy as you. Yeah, they might be at a different level. And when I did the last man standing event in Feb, we had the Australian ultra champion and yeah, he ran 240 Ks and we had, someone whose goal was just to do 50. But the mindset's the same. They're just at a different point in their own journey. But you realize like, actually there's a lot of people who are wired this way. It's not, you might be the one in your friendship group, for now, but in the population, there's a lot of people who are willing to go that next level.
So let's try and tie it into the industry in which we exist, recruitment, which is, it's a challenging industry, it's a competitive industry, it's an industry where we are rewarded. Let's be honest, it's an industry that rewards endurance. The longer you stay in the game, the longer you stay in the same seat, the longer you stick around, the more successful, in theory, the more successful you can be. Yeah. So Rob, what kind of similarities do you draw, parallels do you draw between extreme goal setting and the industry of recruitment?
You've got to have targets in place in both. So if you're training for an ultra marathon, there's baby steps all the way along. So you'll tick boxes at month 1, at month 2, month 3. Then you need to sort of increase your mileage. So if you're working in the recruitment industry, you're not going to go out and make 20 or 30 BD calls in the first week. You want to learn how to do that first. Make 1 or 2 good calls, and then get good at that. Get good at qualifying candidates or qualifying a job, but listening to people. So I think you watch people and see how they do it. You ask questions and then you do it. That's how I learned even to sort of run and sort of get the nutrition right. For example, you need to sort of the parallels are you need to do similar things within your recruitment career. So watch the people that are pretty damn good at it. The Kate Grahams of the world, or the Brian Lynch's, and see how they do it and follow the steps that they take to become recruitment fit. I would say recruitment fit. Yeah, put my teeth back in.
Okay, Matt, what parallels do you draw between extreme goal setting and how do you relate it back to recruitment? Do you think they're intertwined?
Yeah, definitely. So I agree with Rob around kind of the success leaves clues and following kind of other key performers. But I think if you're an extreme person who sets extreme goals, it probably goes beyond goals. Like for me, like I look at like goals for me are kind of, I don't know, midpoint of the food chain almost. So, so I think it's more about identity. So if you're a person who sets extreme goals, you've probably got an identity tied around those goals. So, if I look at me from a fitness perspective, like it wouldn't be, I want to run 50K, 60Ks, 80Ks. It's, my identity is I'm a runner. So if I'm a runner, well, how does that outplay? And I think in recruitment, that's exactly the same thing. Like if your identity is, I'm an elite recruitment performer or whatever it might be, like mine would be like I'm an elite sales leader, there's certain goals that will fall out of that will be extreme, and then there'll be a bunch of attributes. So I think for me the goal setting is important, but it's not kind of the be all and end all. I think anyone who has extreme goals, there's some form of an identity that sits behind that, or something bigger than the actual goal. The goal's just the outworking of what that bigger piece is, if that makes sense.
So would you say, okay, so obviously you're both in your personal life, you choose to set extreme goals. I'm sure you have like little piddly goals along the way as well, but you also go big and you go with the big extreme goals. So Rob, do you also set extreme goals in your career?
I'd like to say yes to that, but I'm going to say no, I haven't. You know, I think I used to do that when I started off. You know, you want to follow a certain career path within recruitment. This wasn't something I actually ever planned on doing. I just wanted to be good at it. I wanted to be a good leader. So, did I set extreme goals? No. I wanted to understand what it means to be a good leader. Learn from people I've sort of looked at and seen their mistakes, and do better than that. But to say set extreme goals about my particular career, it's going to be, maybe that is controversial. No, I haven't. You know, I'm quite happy in the skin that I'm in at the moment and where I am. You know, whether that will change, you know, in the next sort of 12 to 18 months, I don't know. But, you know, I'm going to sort of rewind slightly there, but, you know, this year for me was a reset without a doubt. After sort of, you know, what happened last year with COVID, you know, I'm kind of gone, right, I want to get to the end of 2021. I want to, you know, build back up to where the business was pre-COVID, and then we'll see what happens from there. So kind of my long-term goal is to just get to the end of 2021, be successful, get the business back on track. That's it. If that's extreme, then maybe I've just completely lied about what I just said. But that's my plan for this year.
Yeah. Okay. And then Matt,
Yeah.
do your career goals, are they mirrored by your personal extreme goals? Do you set your sights very high, or?
Yeah, so mine have been very aggressive. I think you probably picked that up on our first podcast.
Yeah.
So yeah, hugely kind of career focused, short term, medium term, long term.
Oh, here we go.
Sorry, too many waving my hands around here, and I just knocked my mic out. So yeah, obviously ridiculously kind of goal-driven, goal setting, you know, short, mid, long term. So 12 months, you know, I have my 6 areas. I go through that. I've been doing that for years. Yeah, even as an early recruiter, I had in my head, you know, I want to be a GM before I'm 30. Funnily enough, as I grew older, it wasn't about the title, but you know, as a 22-year-old, it was like, okay, I want to be a GM before I'm 30. In my head, I wanted to be, you know, CEO or MD before I was 35. Yeah, that's where I probably grew up between 30 and 35, and realized it's not about the title. It's more about, you know, the impact I'm having on my team and others, and building others up, and the outworking of that may be I move into that role over time. But I was always focused on kind of growth, you know, hugely on personal growth of myself and the team around me as a leader. And then, yeah, like it just hasn't changed year in, year out. I'm kind of what's next. But I think the focus now, and particularly as I've moved into the MD role in the last year, it's really about now how that outworks in the team. Yeah, so I still have goals to go next level, but it's really about focus around that kind of servant leader approach, and how do we bring that next level of people coming through.
Yeah. So this conversation is fundamentally about goals, right? It's about life goals, extreme goals, career goals, whatever. So my mentor, I remember, I haven't been great at goal setting. My mentor told me that every year, I think he said for the last 20 years, you know, once, you know, one weekend of the year, he goes away to some cabin in the woods, like with a nice bottle of red, puts on a big roaring fire, and he sets his professional goals and his personal goals. And he said he's done it year in, year out. He said one year he didn't do it. One year he just didn't get away for that trip and didn't set those goals. And he said it was the worst year for him personally, professionally. And it really instilled him in the importance of doing it. And you know, I've taken that on board to a degree, not to the degree that you do, but I wonder whether it's a neglected art in life and our industry. So with that in mind, Rob, may I ask, as a man who sets goals for himself, how does that manifest? Because you're both people leaders. How does that manifest itself in your management style? Do you kind of talk to your people about setting not only goals? I'm not talking about targets and billings and what they're going to build that quarter, but life goals. Do you have one eye on their personal development as well as their billing target?
I think over the last 3 years, yes, especially within this business as well, because it's something that's kind of drilled into us to sort of set personal goals as well as professional goals. And I would say, if I rewind back prior to that, where, you know, I sort of went on and did my I'm a qualified coach, so when I worked at Interpro with some of the team there was a lot of the guys then had sort of goals around, buying a property, etc. And I sort of brought that back into, right, okay, so what does that mean for you in terms of how many deals you need to do to earn X amount of commission so that you will be in a position in 12 months time to have your deposit. So I thought that was very important, and it worked really, really well. It was something it was an aspect of my job that I really, really enjoyed. Have I been able to do that in this role? Not as much as I would like to have done it, but it's definitely something we have in place where you sit at the beginning of the year and go, right, what do you want to achieve? Some people are actually happy to open up and talk to you about their own sort of personal goals, whether it is to buy a house or a car or to pay off all their debts, whatever it is, and you can work with them. Others, they're a closed book and they want to they have their own sort of particular goals and they go away and do it, similar to your man that goes off to his cabin. But I've got a number of friends that, at the start of the year, they set goals and it's a religious thing. My goals this year were not so much career, it was probably more personal. So, it was to buy another investment property and how I'm going to do that. Then, start building up my sort of running, and so that by the end of the year, I can do another ultramarathon. So, not so much career, but more personal for me this year.
Okay. And Matt, given your background and obviously your belief in goals, is it something that that sneaks into your management style? Do you try and not impose goals on your people, but you try and educate them on the benefits of goal setting?
Oh yeah, I'm extreme, so impose is probably the right word. So I think every 6 months our team has an offsite. I'm very focused on kind of, if I holistically improve the person, that improves the recruiter, that improves the result. If you join me, I talked to you about that in the interview. I don't shy away from that. The expectation is set up front. I make them do book club. Some people love doing it, some people hate it. It's like, we're going to grow together. We're going to read this book. We're going to look at how we implement it. I look at their personal life, their work life, and I kind of relentlessly push that on people. Some adopt it really quickly and love it. Others are unsure, but then start to see some results and probably don't go as extreme, but like certainly get on the bus. And I think there's others that kind of push back against it, and over time either leave the business because I keep pushing them down that path, or just give up. But it's part of my leadership style. I don't shy away from it. That's my DNA. I think that's part of what drives performance in our organisation. But it does make people uncomfortable, and I think that's why younger me, kind of flipping back to that question at the start, where I thought I could change everyone. I think I'm a lot more selective now on who we bring on board, and very open around, this is what you get if you come to our organisation, because it's not for everyone, right? Like some people, are happy just going through life, earning a good wage, getting to a level of performance where they're successful, they're comfortable, and everyone's view of success is different. For them, it might be work life, having a better work-life integration, or having more flexibility. So it's hard to kind of go, how do you fit people in that box? But I guess for me, if you're in our business, I'm going to relentlessly charge you against your goals, whether you like it or not. So
historically, when you think about all the people that you've managed, do you typically see that high performers are the types of people that do set goals for themselves, or have you seen high performers who just coast at that level? They don't set goals; they're just really good billers.
Yeah, I think there's a mix, right? Like there is something, and I'm sure there's been studies done on this, but if you can get that nirvana of talent and hard work, and someone who sets goals like that, that's almost for me like the perfect person to hire. But you will get, we've all seen those people who are super talented. They can bill 800,000, maybe even $1 million a year, but they're coasting, right? But I kind of say that as wasted talent. I don't know. For me, I really push my team on kind of, don't live life as an accident, right? Like life by design. You choose where you're going to put your effort in, whether that's work, life, family, friends, whatever. Set some goals and go after it. Like, don't let it happen by accident. Like everything you do is your choice and you're in control of it. But of course you can perform without having those things, right? Like, and I think we see that in the sporting arena. Like I look at like a Nick Kyrgios, for example, like super talented, barely ever had a coach, top 50 in the world, top 20 in the world. I think at one stage, top 10, right? But I always look at people like that and I'm like, imagine if you could buy into a coach, buy into proper goals, you know, you could be the best in the world, but not everyone has that, you know, inherent, I want to be the best in the world. I want to compete. I want to, you know, see how far I can take myself. Yeah, so I don't think there's a straight answer on that, but I don't know. I really look at the people I bring into my business and even in my friendship group, and it's like, well, why wouldn't you want to be the best version of yourself? Like, well, you know, no one wants to be on their deathbed and at you know, whatever the age is, 70, 80, 90, and be like, what if, you know, what if I put in, what if I chased after that dream? I'm kind of like, I'd rather chase after that dream and die on the course or die giving my all than be at the other end and be like, shit, I wasted my life. Probably a bit philosophical.
That's deep. I'm gonna after this chat, I'm gonna get pen and paper. I'm gonna write down half a dream goals, because on my deathbed, I need to know that I've achieved something.
No, but like, I don't know, like it sounds full on, right? But like, and I'm probably talking too much, so cut me off if you need to. But like we did a thing at our offsite recently. I said to everyone kind of, you know, rate your role out of 10, what would make it a 10, rate your clients out of 10, what would make it a 10, rate your life out of 10 and what would make it a 10, right? We had everything from kind of a 6 to me at 9.5. Right. And everyone was like 9.5, like knowing all the stupid things I do and, you know, that I'm super driven outside of work, in work, you know, everything I put my mind to, I kind of go hard. And they're like 9.5. And I'm like, yeah, but I don't do anything I don't love. Like, because if I go through that goal setting process and I look across my life, like I just cull out things that aren't valuable to me or that aren't of interest. So I was like, yeah, I don't know the latest Netflix show because I'd rather go for a run, you know, or I'd rather read a book and grow and develop. But I think the better you get at goal setting, the better you look at kind of yourself and what is your identity, the easier it is to kind of design your life around what you love, which sounds crazy, but you know, I think a lot of people aren't happy because they've never really reflected and gone, what makes me happy? Yeah. So because they don't set goals, they do things by accident. They just do things that they happen to enjoy in the moment, as opposed to sitting back and being like, what actually makes me happy? And
exploring the world and trying different things. No, which you two do. No, you two do. No, you have explored and pushed your boundaries and taken yourself out of your comfort zone. So with that in mind, Rob, do you think we as humans, or do you think recruiters should push themselves outside of work, or do you think that you push yourself in the office environment? Do you think when you're outside work, you should take your foot off the gas? Do you think there's merits to pushing yourself inside and outside of work?
I think it's, you know, it has to be down to the individual. You know, you can lead a horse to water, but you know, it has to be down to that person. You're either going to be somebody that sets themselves, you know, extreme goals inside and outside of work, or you're not. You know, I know, you know, Matt's saying that he gets people to do the book clubs, etc. And I'm listening to, you know, what Matt was just saying. I'm kind of going, I love this. I absolutely love this. And, you know, if I had a leader or could join a leader like Matt, that would have been absolutely insane. But, you know, some people will absolutely shy away from that and are happy to just go home and sit on the couch and play Xbox or whatever. And, you know, I probably know too many Netflix, you know, shows at the moment, really, and need to get out and do a bit more running. But, you know, I do, it helps me. You know, I always feel, I know 100% I feel so much better in my professional life and my personal life when I'm in a training regime and I've got something to focus on from a goal point of view externally from work. You know, if work can be going absolutely shit house, or it can be going really well and you're working really hard at work and you're achieving your goals and targets, etc., you're still really, really stressed. I look back and go, I'm only really, really stressed because I'm actually not doing the things I enjoy doing outside of work. You know, which are, you know, hanging out with people on a mountain bike, or, you know, going up a mountain for a run, or whatever it may be. When I'm doing that, I'm in a much better headspace. So, you know, my advice to those people would be, yes, I think you should do that, but it has to be, you know, for me, it's probably has to be their choice. They'll see the benefits without a doubt from looking at people that have got that balance. They're in a much better place and they can cope with things a lot more easier.
Yeah. So I was just thinking about your lead. You can lead a horse to water. I was talking with our GM in Canberra the other week when we were doing our strategy day, and lead a horse to water came up and said, lead a horse to water, can't make a drink. And he's like, yep, but you can keep turning it around and around and around and around and just keep putting it in front of the water. That's probably my style. Oh, you don't want to drink it? Oh, have a think about it. You want to drink it? No, have a think about it. Do you want to drink it?
You're thirsty, yeah? You're thirsty.
Yeah. You're eventually going to get thirsty.
Absolutely.
So Matt, be absolutely honest with me. If you interviewed two recruiters who were both performing at a similar level, and one of them said, yeah, I'm really focused on goals outside of work, and I want to go and run a marathon next year and buy a house and all the rest of it. Yeah. And the other one, actually no, the other one was billing more, was billing 600K. The goal setter was billing 400K. But the guy who billed 600K didn't have any life goals. Yeah. Didn't push himself outside of work or herself outside of work. Who would you offer the job to?
Yeah, I don't think it's as simple as that. I wish it was. But I think, for me, the goal setter, like a lot of people come and sit in front of me and say they do personal development, they set goals. And then as soon as I say, okay, tell me the last book you read and how you applied it to your work. What's the last podcast you read? Who do you listen to from a podcast point of view? Someone who says, I want to buy a house. I'm like, that's an easy goal, right? Everyone says, I want to buy a house. I want to buy a nice car, right? I would dig a lot deeper around kind of, well, what do you want and what do you need? And where have you set goals in the past and actually executed? Because a lot of people have goals, they just never execute on them, right? Like, so for me, it's like, well, what's your body of work? So I might go for the higher biller going, well, he's never set a goal, but he's open to the concept. He just hasn't had the right leader.
There's your ego again.
Yeah, there is a bit of that as well, right? But equally, it's like, are they open to the concept? So I'd say, like, if you did this, what do you think would happen? And if they were like, that makes sense. I've just never been, I've never explored that. I've never thought about that. That could almost be better than the person who's saying, well, I'm goal driven, but I've never hit goals. So it's about seeing someone execute on those goals. Everyone has goals, right? You get to New Year's resolution. Everyone has a lot of people set them and they never do them. Like, it's bullshit. So for me, it's not just about having the goal, it's about proving that you've executed on it. Like, if you sat down in front of me and said, well, what are your goals? I can pull out my pieces of paper for the last 5 or 6 years. Here's my goals, and here's the ones I've achieved. Here's where I've missed it, and here's why. And this is what I did to change that. And there's real life examples. So I'd love to say it was as easy as that, Pete, and I'm sure you'd love as a rec to be able to find people that easily. But I think it's a complex. And it's more a mindset for me than someone who just sets goals. It's what's this person's mindset? Are they coachable? There's a lot more to it than just goals.
You know what's going to happen now, Matt? Every time you get a candidate from Pete, they're going to know the name of the book. Coached. They're going to absolutely. They're going to be well coached, mate. He's just counting the money now, Pete. Yeah.
No, I'm just going to say, Matt, it doesn't matter that they only billed 160 grand last year. He ran 2 marathons.
Yeah. But that's work. Like, you can work with that. Like, funnily enough, I met a candidate earlier in the week who's just like, I run 200Ks a month. I'm like, okay, there's a level of dedication in that that I can work with. There's a level of raw, and she's not a recruiter. She was a rookie. I'm like, there's a level of raw talent, raw potential there that I can work with.
There's discipline. There's discipline there as well, isn't it? It takes a lot of discipline to get up and do that kind of mileage without.
Whereas if someone says I train 3 times a week, I'm like, you're not really training. If you're doing 200Ks, I'm like, okay. Like, you're at a level now where I'm like, I know what it takes to do 200Ks. You're not winging that.
And that's essentially why some of those bigger global businesses have had this rule, which is a bit looser nowadays, that they will only look at recruiters who hold a degree. Not because they necessarily care about the level of intelligence that is attributed to holding a degree, or because the degree is relevant to the job. It's because they like to see that these young people dedicated themselves and saw something through at an early stage of their lives when some others were just down the pub. Yeah. Okay. All right. Chaps, this has been not only interesting, but for me, pretty inspirational. So I hope that the viewers and the listeners have picked up some nuggets of inspiration as well. But before we go, it would be silly of me not to ask what the current goals are. What's next on the extreme agenda? Rob, what have you got lined up, son?
Well, I'm not going to say it's extreme, but the next, literally on Saturday morning, I did the Marina Down sort of 21k, which is a trail run, which is pretty good. I previously run the 50k there, so this fat body's getting himself into shape at the moment. So I'm heading out to the Youves. It's around the 14th of July. There's a 30k trail run there, so that's my next one. And as I said, yeah, I want to be doing an ultramarathon by the end of the year, so yeah, I will be there.
Good man, good man.
Yeah.
Matt, don't disappoint.
Yeah, I'll try not to. So I'd love to do 100. I haven't done 100 before, so 80 is my furthest kind of ultra. So I'd love to do 100. Maybe Youves next year for the 100. But certainly 100 kilometer run is definitely on the cards for me. Maybe a jump back into the boxing ring, because that suits my style as opposed to MMA. I'm not going to get choked out in boxing, or maybe get my ear bitten off Mike Tyson style. But then I think, my bigger goal is just looking at how we scale our business nationally. Like, obviously, it's a big move for me coming into this new role. So it's, how do we scale in this market, and drive that next level of performance across OREC, which I think is going to be a big enough task in itself.
Very good, lads. Do you want to know my next goal?
Yeah, go for it.
Yes, come on.
50Ks at Oxfam.
I'm going to binge watch Line of Duty.
Oh, that's a skill as well, right? Like sitting on the couch is a skill.
Thanks, dedication. Thanks, dedication.
Go.
Boys, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. That was enjoyable and informative and interesting, and most of all, inspirational. Thank you very much, and I wish you the best of luck with those future goals.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Matt.